Hello, and welcome to the Out of the Box, episode 5. And this time, as we hope to do this, as is mentioned in the previous podcast, we're going to be giving a quick review of the Tetris movie. This just came out on the Apple TV Plus service, and it was stars Taron Egerton, which is basically not some kind of action movie or anything like that, but it's actually a documentary film where someone from Bulletproof Software goes to Russia in order to help Alexei or some sort into getting the rights to the Tetris for the Nintendo Game Boy, and also help him do various things. But it's a bit crazy, as you can tell from the trailers.
I mean, it's not really a documentary. It's like I don't know what the term for it is. It's like a
documentary.
It's based on a true story. It's based on a true story, but it's good. It's a very interesting story. It's a very interesting story. It's it's the last film you'd think to have a car chase scene in it, but it does. It's a Tetris movie. It's a lot of political stuff. Because obviously, if you don't know the history of Tetris, it was developed in Russia.
Soviet Russia.
Was during the Cold War. Soviet Russia, yeah. More Specific, Soviet Russia, yeah. During the Cold War. So there were a lot of it was a lot stricter with communism and stuff when it comes to stuff with intellectual properties and stuff like that. So trying to get the rights to Tetris became this massive ordeal, and it even became a massive political thing with Gorbachev and literally the leaders in Russia cracking down on it. And yeah, that's how. And then Tetris becomes the most important video game of all time, or one of. And it's such an interesting film. It is like an action political drama, but it's all about a video game, which is super intriguing. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fantastic film. I really, really liked it. Taron Egerton, if you might know him from Kingsman. He was also Elton John in Rocket Man. He's a very good actor. Welsh as well, I think. So yeah,
isn't he the one that plays Exy in the Kingsman of some sort?
Yes, Etsy in the Kingsman. Yeah, the main character in Kingsman. Yeah,
so
he's a very good actor. He's done quite a lot of stuff, and this is a really an interesting character. It was based on a real person. So he said he was Dutch, but he moved to America. So he sounds American, but now he lives in Japan with his wife who's Japanese, and now he obviously tries to go to Russia to get the creator of Tetris over to America and to also get the rights to Tetris. And it's funny because Tetris has been such a difficult thing to get on the Nintendo Switch. We only just managed to get Tetris on the Game Boy on Nintendo Switch recently because there's so many legal restrictions with Tetris. It's a crazy game. The whole film is based on the fact that they had the rights to Tetris and they sold the Japanese rights, but only the Japanese rights for games consoles and arcades, not actual home consoles or home PCs. There's loads of different rules for it, and different people had different legislation. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm taking over the conversation here. So
yeah,
I really enjoyed it. It was a really good film. What do you think?
Well, it's just basically Mirosov that takes according to the film, is that they only took the rights from Russia because it's for the computer-based systems. They just somehow turned it into rights towards other computers, and this somehow turns into a lot of tennis to deal with rights and everything, and just leads to more more complications to do with rights and trying to get rights done in Soviet Russia for Hank. And I think the true story is that it's a very dangerous and difficult scenario that Hank got into, but his actions with Alexei that somehow led to getting Tetris and a Game Boy. Just think about so much effort that's been placed to get Tetris to appear on the Nintendo Game Boy. But then it could have been the other way around. It could be on Sega systems because it did come out.
Yeah, it could have been.
It did came out on Sega Mega Drive, but it wasn't went around and they had legal issues. And this probably is the reason why with those kind of rights going around. So, but
they were trying to sell it. So they were trying to sell the rights to Atari as well, and it's just such a fascinating thing to think about. Like, so much crazy stuff happened with this film. Like, you've got to watch the film. It's so interesting, and there's so many crazy things happen with the rights to Tetris. It's really weird to think that we might have been living in a world where the Game Boy never really took off because they didn't have Tetris. I feel like Tetris was the killer app for the original Game Boy, and that's really what established Nintendo in the handheld market and brought them to new relevancies. Like Tetris was the first killer app for the Game Boy, and then when the Game Boy was about to die out, Pokemon came out, and that was like the second killer app for the Game Boy. Tetris is such a huge thing. I mean, if you didn't grow up during the Tetris era, you like, it was crazy. It was a massive phenomenon. My mum absolutely adores Tetris. She used to nick my Game Boy and play, and we used to have like an NES set up in the kitchen, and she'd just play Tetris and Dr. Mario all the time. She loved those games, and it's just like it's such an iconic game, Tetris. And the film was fantastic. I really, really liked it. I think it's my favorite video game movie of all time.
Yeah,
honestly.
Well, to me, I was introduced to Tetris, which I thought it was tennis, but it's actually Tetris in the end. I was introduced to it not in 1989, not when I'm like 2, but it was in about 30 years ago. Well, at the beginning of 1993, or was it 1994? I'm not sure. Like, I
was born in '89, so I was 0.
Yeah,
at that point. So I have played it a lot since, honestly.
It was started when I think one of my cousins got a Nintendo Game Boy, and when he got it for Christmas, that many members of the family, especially my aunt, has been like trying out the Game Boy and been playing Tetris on it. It's like, oh wow, so good. And then eventually, I think it was my dad who bought the Game Boy with the Tetris with it and brought it over. It's like, sweet. And all of us have been taking turns playing it. So, but I was like, it's great. I think it was the first actual Nintendo console I got. And I was introduced to Tetris, and I don't know if I've got other things. Like, there's a few other games like golf, which is given to my dad for his birthday, and there's like a few others which, like Super Mario Land or some sort. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until like about 1997 or some sort where I got a Game Boy Pocket for Christmas, and that's when I got more Mario Land games, and I thought, this is great. And I think this is where my fascination with the Game Boy really kicked off. But I would still say this is one of the best inventions ever made. And it made it possible because of Tetris. Otherwise, it could have been with Super Mario Land, which is like a bit of an odd mix because it differentiates it from the actual Super Mario Brothers on the NES.
Yeah. I love Tetris, though. It's such a good game. Even to this day, Tetris is such an infinitely replayable game, and like the fact that it's still they still make Tetris games. Like we had Tetris 99 just come out. We had a couple of years ago. We have Tetris Effect. You get new Tetris games quite regularly, and I feel like it's such a fantastic game. If you've never played Tetris, I mean, like you'd be living under a rock. Surely, play Tetris. It's such a fun game. I love Tetris. I adore Tetris, and I thought this film was brilliant. And it's the perfect game. Like it's like cheesy, but it works. It really works.
Yeah, I certainly enjoy the characters in it. Like the main two, that's been Hank and Alexei, and I think there's some other characters like there's a couple of people from like Miroslav, and it's just like as if they're fleshed out characters. And I think that's really adds
it's based on real people, so it's interesting. So I mean, it's based on real people, so I mean, it's really interesting to see like at the end with the credits when they show the real people who like it's based on. I think it's really fascinating to see that this a lot of this is true facts. You watch the film, he's like, oh, that can't be true. That seems ridiculous and absurd. And the amount of stuff they're going through just for this right to one video game, like legally and stuff. The amount of stuff they basically get car chased and they get hunted down by the KGB and stuff like that. and like getting all like death threats and stuff, just trying to get his rights from one video game, you think that like would be an exaggeration, but you look at the end credits and you see pictures of him and stuff, and it looks like it's all most of it was real. Most of it's like spot on. I mean, I think probably some of it's probably sensationalized a little bit to make it more of an entertaining movie.
Well,
but I do think most of it does seem quite accurate, which is interesting.
That is pretty much true with the docudramas, where they tend to exaggerate things just to add more drama. But the thing is with how someone like gets over to Russia to get rights for Tetris to put on the handhelds, this stuff happened and they were placed in such a dire situation. And I think it's pretty much good source material to turn it into a dramatic film that lasts for like 2 hours, and it's like, wow, it's really interesting.
I mean, I really enjoyed it. Like, I was joking around after I watched this, like, oh, what like the Space Invaders movie would be like. I just like doubt that there's anything else that has this kind of crazy like story of how it was made or how the rights were like distributed. You know, I don't think there's any other game in the world that would have this kind of weird history behind it, you know what I mean? I don't think like if as a Space Invaders movie, it's probably some American guy made it and then they sold it. The end. Like, I mean, like it's not really going to be that complicated, I would imagine. But like, no, I mean, it's so fascinating, and I adore it, and I think it's a fantastic film, and I definitely want to watch it again. Only thing I'm not super into in the story is like the bit where it's like his daughter has got a singing recital and he misses the singing recital, and she's like, "You missed your daughter's singing recital." Like, who gives a shit? I'm sorry, your kid needs to get. Come on. There's like really super serious about the singing recital. Like, what is this about? That's random.
I think it's just they trying to like add an extra dimension of drama and make it look as if like it's turned out really, really bad. And that's what I mean by exaggeration. And I think it's just somehow like they exaggerate things, especially the communist party agents going around and causing all sorts of scary stuff going on.
Yes.
But from the trailers, it's supposed to be a over-the-top, ridiculous movie. But when I watched it on Apple TV Plus, it's just like, it's actually much better than expected. And I certainly enjoyed like watching this entire film. And it's also really fascinating to see like how someone got into the company, bring Tetris out, and then the whole point of this film is to the extent that someone has to sacrifice in order to get over to Russia. And if it wasn't for that journey, you would not get Tetris on the Nintendo Game Boy. Instead, it will be on Atari Lynx and Atari systems. Yeah, and history would have changed.
Drastically would have been different. I also wanted to give a shout out to the fact that like the soundtrack to this film was fantastic. They had so many really good songs in it, and they were, like some of the songs were like "I Need a Hero," but it was in Russian or in Japanese, so it's like you get like an interesting take on all these songs. Oh, and then like I also love the transitions with where you like it's normal film and then it looks like and then it turns into like 8-bit graphics. Like going from building to building to like 8-bit graphics, or like going from like to Russia or whatever. It like says level 2 Russia, and it's like an 8-bit graphics. And it looks like a classic video game. I love those. Like,
I'm not a fan of that, to be honest.
Oh, really? I thought that was a really nice touch.
I just feel that
myself.
If it's just like following Tetris blocks instead, then that would have been fine. But they just treat it as if it's some kind of platform game and going through stages. And
I suppose
it's a bit cheesy. It just kind of reminds me of a Console Wars documentary. And I think it's on Netflix. But I think it just like goes for those kinds of graphics. Yeah. And also it hasn't been... It's done cheaply done as well, because it just seems to be like a bit... It's just like some animation. It's not that special, but I just think it would have been better if it had like Tetris graphics and also some additional bits just to represent the game and also the kinds of things going on. But I don't know. It's just like it's something that a bit irked me about the film. But apart from that, it's just like.
I like it.
it's not 100% special, but I think the entirety of the film, the drama, the characterization, and the feel of it, it just really works out really nicely. And I think this also worked out as a film as well, so it's quite good. But I think to me, it's just like, also, it just feels like more of an indie hit than anything else. Did you think?
That's fair. No, I guess that's fair. I mean, it's a lower budget film. It's not. This isn't an MCU film. This isn't like Endgame or whatever. This is a lower budget film, I would think, and it's made by Apple. I was also going to mention the fact that if you are a Game Pass subscriber, you can get 3 months of Apple TV for free. So you can get this film for free to watch on Apple TV through Game Pass. So if you have a Game Pass, I highly recommend downloading it. And also check out Ted Lasso as well, because that show was really good. Yes. Those are probably the only 2 good things on Apple TV. I can't think of anything else, but I'm sure there is other stuff. But yeah, the Tetris movie's on there. Definitely recommend watching it. I really liked it. Are we going to give it a ranking out of 10? Or
we don't need to. But I can say that I know this is going to head into spoiler territory, but I think the ending is just really, really special. And it's just where, like, when the Tetris made for the Game Boy and it appeared on news in people's hands, then Alexei has been like stuck in Russia for so long, just finally receives a package, and after he'd been making the game on his computer for some time and showing it for free, he receives a free Nintendo Game Boy that has a Tetris in it. It's like, oh, cool. When he picks it up, it just says there's a check behind it. It's like going to San Francisco, and it's just when he finally gets to the country, has more freedom, and gets to live with someone who actually made this dream possible. And I think this is a very bittersweet ending. And I think it just really empowers me, because at the moment, I think it's the same with anyone that's living in America or any of these countries, because at the moment, many of those countries are going towards fascism, and this is a very scary thing. Even in the UK, it's just like, my rights are being rolled back, and I just feel as if I'm not going to be any safe in the public. And it's also a dream for me to move somewhere to feel as if I would be much safer again. Which is why this ending is just really relates to me at a huge level. To see that you got like a ticket to go to the country, have a bare freedom for your life, and I think it's just so touching to me on a huge level. And that is combined with the other 2 story aspects, that's just like makes it very special. It's really nice. And
it looks like, from what you can tell from the credits and stuff, it looks like that is actually what happened. He got him out of Russia, and they started the Tetris company in America, or Japan. They got him out of Russia, where he was being had a horrible life, and he got to make Tetris for a living and actually make money from it, and actually have a good life with his family, which is interesting. Because, like, obviously, because that's also a big point of the film, which I kind of overlooked a little bit, is that Alexei, the creator of Tetris, didn't make any money from the game when it first came out. He made the game, and it got sold to America, and he didn't make any profit because he was in communist Russia. So he basically lived a shitty life, and he made one of the greatest games ever, and he would have basically still lived there in a shitty life if it wasn't for Hank, who came over from America and bought the rights. So yeah, I mean, spoilers, but I mean it's a true story, so he's not really spoilers. You know what I mean? But yeah, interesting. I thought it was a really good film. I really liked it. Recommend it highly.
Me too.
Recommend it to someone to watch it.
If you've got Apple TV Plus, check it out. Plus, there's some other good shows there. Sure. Like you said, Ted Lasso. There's also Pachinko. And if you're in the Christmas spirit, is Spirited. I saw it in the cinema, but I've also saw many parts of it on Apple TV Plus because it's such a great film. There's also Everything Everywhere All at Once as well, which is won a load of Oscars. No, that's on Amazon actually, not Apple TV Plus. You sure? I'm sure it's on Apple TV. I had a look at it. I'll double check that later. It's fine. Yes. Be interesting stuff. I know we're not really giving it rankings, but I'll probably give it like an 8 out of 10 or something. I think it's a good film. Really enjoyed it.
Looking forward to the Mario movie. That's the next video game movie I'm looking forward to.
I'm not looking to go to the cinema to watch a film, so I'll probably wait for it to come out on on-demand services. Unless we have to go to the cinema for the matter, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I recommend it. Check it out. If you have Game Pass, it's free for 3 months. Go check it out. You'll be worth your subscription. I think I'm hoping you'll enjoy it because I really enjoyed it. So. Thank you guys for watching. If you have anything else you want to say?
That's all. So thanks for watching this Outside the Box video, and I hope you enjoy the movie too, because we certainly had a really good time watching it. So take care and see you around later. Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to the X Marks the Box podcast. Follow us at xmarksbox on Twitter or X Marks the Box on YouTube, and follow us on all audio podcast services. Thanks for listening.